Our next speaker this morning is Manish Chandra, CEO of Poshmark. Two special things I wanted to share about him before he comes on stage. Manish has made himself available on his birthday, and we are very, very, very appreciative of that. So happy birthday, Manish. Second thing, today's title of today's event is Thanks to Manish. Please step up on stage, Manish. We had an impact report launch here in the Bay Area at this very room a couple of months ago, and when we were talking about the context of AI, he was the one who said that Indiaspora should do an event around reimagining AI, so thanks for the title of today's event also. And Manish also, when I asked him what should I say about him, he said, you should tell people I know nothing about AI, and we have invited you to talk about it, but I think you're going to have a lot to say about this. Thanks for being here.
I think in the world of AI, anybody can talk about AI, right? Because we could use AI to talk about AI. I wanted to first thank MR and Prabha and Shobha and the whole Indiaspora team for putting this event together. I think we all need to sort of learn and have different perspectives, not just at the technology level, but really how do we leverage that in our day-to-day lives. So when we think of AI, we think of it as very obscure things. Then maybe we've used ChatGPT and we've sort of thinking about that is really AI. But when you sort of step back and think about AI, in my opinion, gives us the power, gives us the tools, gives us the technology to reimagine literally everything we do. And, one of my favorite sort of quotes is from one of our presidents in India, Dr. Kalam, and what he says is the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. And we've all come to this valley as immigrants, dreaming of a better future, dreaming of something that we want to do. Yet when we think of AI, for a lot of people, it feels like yet another tool, or it fills you with fear. But if you sort of re-engage with AI from the perspective of reimagining everything that's happening at a very core level, it can be a very empowering, very powerful force of transformation. And there's lots of ways in which we are thinking about AI, but I wanted to give a scenario that we talked about the last time we were talking about AI, actually right here, is imagine a loved one. Imagine your grandmother, right? And imagine your children. So think about their great-grandmother. Their great-grandmother used to make this very specific recipe for dal or sambar. And they maybe tasted it when they visited India, and now they want to recreate it. The recipe might be written up, might not be written up, but if you imagine turning around as a 14-year-old kid and your great-grandmother is right there with you, teaching you this recipe. Kind of spooky, but very possible in this world of AI, where the transformation of human potential and process can actually take you into a forward future world where we can not just have legacies of ourselves, but actually leave an imprint of ourselves into the future. And in a way, we think that this is weird, but if you step back and think about it, 100 years back, if people ever thought we could have a captured video of a human being and we could see them come alive on screen, they would have freaked out, right? So what's to prevent from a human being standing next to you in a way that makes sense to you, because there's going to be a transformation page. How many people have here ridden a Waymo in SF? It's a very, very out-of-body experience, when you sit in this car, which is completely and beautifully driving itself, right? The form factor is still an old-school car, but it is really actually more sensitive to everything that's happening in your life than a human being can be, in a way, right? Now, they could have easily structured a robot driving it, in which case it would have just felt like old school. And in new school, maybe 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, the driver's seat will be completely absent. So we are living in a world where things are transforming. But then if you remember the year 2007, if you do, a person came up on the stage and took a phone which looked like this and freaked everyone out. People said, oh, that's a useless kind of a phone, doesn't have a keyboard, right? And today, can you imagine having a keyboard on a phone? It would feel so retro, so old school. So when we think about AI, I actually think that the power of AI will be realized by reimagining things that were not possible and starting to do them. Who here feels less busy than they were 10 years back? In 10 years, we've invented so much technology, right? We have phone, we can call a car. Like, we don't have to think about having a car now. We have everything available at our fingertips, yet we're busier than ever. So AI is definitely not going to make us any less busy. You know why? Because as human beings, we are kind of screwed up. AI can solve our productivity, can replace our brain, but they cannot replace our craziness. We are very crazy as a human race and have been for thousands and thousands of years. If you go to Amalfi Coast, you can actually see a city that was buried intact thousands of years back. And you walk into the city and you sort of look around, you see restaurants fully preserved from 2,400 years back, which still have pictures of food drawn on the walls. So when we think of walking into a restaurant today and seeing pictures of food, and we think it's novel, maybe something that happened in 100, 150 years back, well, there's physical evidence that that was exact thing happening 2,500 years back. When you walk into a home, they actually have actual physical carpets which have some personal thing from an owner, including their actual graffiti. So the vanity of humankind has been there 2,500 years back. Then, many years back, I got a chance to visit Egypt, and I was walking around in the museum. And when I was walking around the museum, I looked up, and there were these statues just sort of lying on this museum, some up, some down, some sort of sideways, but there were literally thousands of statues. And it looked like a man, a woman, kind of like gods and goddesses. I said, these must be very valuable artifacts. Why are they sort of lying up there? And they said, they're not really gods and goddesses. That's how people 5,000, 6,000 years back used to take pictures of themselves. They would sit down and somebody would carve them. So when you think about taking a selfie, or in the future creating holographs of ourselves, or full walking robotic images of ourselves, that crap has been happening since time immemorial. That's not going to change. Then another thing we saw in Egypt is we were visiting this temple. This temple was next to a set of pyramids called the Saqqara pyramids, which are thousands of years older than the Giza pyramids. So you can imagine how ancient they were. This temple had a bunch of hieroglyphics on the wall. And so we asked the guide, what is it, like some sort of famous sayings or inscription? He said, no. That specific set of pyramids, these were tourists who visited 1,000 years later to see the tourism. And guess what that hieroglyphic said? Kilroy was here. 7,000 years back, we were doing the same stupid defiling of monuments that we do today. So nothing is invented. We're just reinventing the world. So in a way, AI is powerful and amazing, but in a way, it is really yet another enabling part of it, because at the end of it, we are still going to do the same things that we've been doing for hundreds of years, just in a new and novel way, and getting busier than ever, because every time free time is unlocked, it's there. Now, when we do go through this transformation, there is going to be changes. So we were just talking outside, and we are seeing that inside in our company is, as you bring AI into the world of customer service, it changes things, right? It changes how people are interacting. We have, Poshmark is a marketplace. That's my company. It's a marketplace for fashion. And we have a fairly decent size amount of dollar volumes going through the platform today. Because of that, we have lots of people who want to attack the marketplace in different ways, and there's people who want to come in. And so one of the fraud engines people do is sometimes they'll leave a comment and say, come and talk to me offline. Now, they're using bots to kind of spam the platform. And we just released and in the process of rolling out and deploying a technology that is using AI to fight it. And initially it was AI plus humans, and now it's become a 100% self-training machine. There are people training it, and they're able to fully process the language that's happening and effectively remove these comments even before they happen. So it's been a huge upgrade to the platform, but it's almost like bots fighting each other, at the end, and they're cleaning. Somebody's using bots to put stuff in it, another person is using that to clean it out. And this is something we couldn't have imagined, many years back happening, but it's actually happening in real life in many, many companies today. We're in the process of testing out a technology because as part of selling on the platform, you have to type in and say, what am I selling? Am I selling this jacket, these pairs of pants, and describe it. Well, we have this technology, which is a mixture of 3 or 4 different models that we are using, some of them common source, some of them custom developed, where you can literally point the camera to an item, and the camera will automatically recognize everything that's happening, create the full description. You can actually use different tones of languages, and ultimately our vision is that you can train it in your own language, and it effectively creates everything. So within the same process that would have taken you maybe a day to do, you can literally do it in like 20 minutes now in the process. So when I start to think of all of these pieces, I recently invested in a company that's building a fashion stylist at your fingertip. Now, not only is it building a fashion stylist at your fingertips, they're also using vision technology to upload everything that you're doing. So pretty soon you wake up and this particular stylist understands everything that is in your closet and effectively starts to recommend outfits. They also know the weather, they also know your lifestyle, etc. So you walk in and a bunch of outfits are ready, you just look at it and do it. And you can imagine a robot in the future just going in and gathering those outfits from your closet and getting your things ready. That'll be available to everyday people here. So when we start to reimagine the future from that perspective, it will unlock new ways and new things that we can do. And when we talk about reimagining AI, it's really about reimagining how we leverage what we are doing, because our time will be freed up from doing certain things, and we can use it to be more creative, to be more powerful. Amar was just joking that this whole outfit could be designed by AI, and I could also not be a real human being, and I could be doing 3 talks at the same time. All of these weird things are possible, right? Do they have any practical limitations or practical sort of views? I don't know. But the fact is that each of these things are really powerful. One of the exercises I give to new people who join Poshmark is imagine a place, a future where we stop wearing clothes. What does that mean? We're not all walking around naked, but we stop wearing clothes in a traditional sense, right? So we wear a very simple set of clothing, right? Like this clothing could be just the same that I'm wearing yesterday, cleaned up and hygienic, but the same set of clothes. But this particular print that you're seeing is imagined by you. So the clothes themselves are dynamically transforming every day through digital technology and software. And the physicality of clothes is no longer relevant. Now, if you think about it, 80 years back, 70 years back, if you talk to people and said that we could watch a movie wherever we were on this small device, when people had spools and spools of projectors projecting movies on these huge screens, they would have said, forget it, get out of here, right? Netflix as a company has transformed from being a company who had a huge logistics arm to ship physical DVDs from point A to point B. And today, they're much bigger by streaming digital content to you. Much, much bigger. Have transformed the entire industry. So the fact that clothes no longer exist in its traditional form is not necessarily a challenge to Poshmark as it exists today. It's a massive opportunity. Now, if we don't exploit it, we don't lean into it, somebody else will, right? And so I think if you start to think about what's happening in your life, what you're doing, whether it's your business, whether it's your personal life, I think instead of resisting what's coming at you, if we embrace it, you can get ahead of it and use that to transform your health, your personal life, your family life, your business, how you live, how you work. And it's happening at a pace and speed that is very staggering, right? And it is something that if you can imagine it, it is likely to happen faster than you can believe it. So the thing is, instead of resisting it, instead of learning it, and in fact, in many ways, you don't even have to, because most of us are not capable of learning everything that happens under the cover. That's why I said I know nothing about AI. But you can use it as a layer to reimagine your own life, and that I do know how to do. And so with that, I would ask you to all reimagine a future driven by AI, but built by you, because it is your imagination. The technology is just an instrument. Thank you.
Hang on, you can't leave without a question or two.
Oh.
Right? Yeah. I have one. So Manish, last week I was at another AI conference where they were talking about new dating app. Everyone has an avatar, and the avatars date each other first before you go on a physical date, right? So where the heck is all this going to? If you reimagine things, you can reimagine all kinds of things.
Yeah, no, when you think about it, today, many of you are not engaged in this conference, even though you're present here, right? What does that mean? You're using your phones to connect with someone who's not present here, right? That same someone would be uninteresting if they're in front of you because you'd be connecting with someone else through the phone that you're doing. So we are already in a world of avatars. We just don't recognize it, right? Many, many years back, I wrote an article about the same topic when mobile was just starting, is how much time we were spending on our phones connecting with other human beings. Many times we imagine we have a relationship with a person, but we've never even met them, right? What is that? That's not an avatar, but it's really not a real human being. So we're already used to it, we just don't recognize it. In this case, you might actually have a physical thing. It might freak you out for a second because you're not used to it, but that is actually happening. Let me give you an example. I was at the TED conference in April, and there is a very famous, and this is, when you look at a country like Japan, which has a dwindling population and connectivity and connection is very different than it is in, say, a Western society, or India, which is teeming with people right now. Their influencers, people who are creatives, people who are influencing people's trends, people who have connections, are already avatars. So there's a very famous avatar who is managed by a full creative professional manager who actually came and gave the talk. And she was able to invite this avatar who is in Tokyo. What does that mean? I don't even know because it's a digital persona. And we had a great conversation with her. And she has, I don't know, like 50 million followers worldwide and has done partnerships with Louis Vuitton, Dior, Mercedes. And she's a very influential person. People have crushes on her. She now has a good-looking brother who's now her counterpart. And these are really amazing, I don't know what to call them, people. But they live in our imagination, just like many other things. How many of you have a crush on some celebrity, but really they live in your imagination? You're never going to meet them, or you might see them from a distance, and that's it. But we have this full imagination where we're in their lives. What's the difference between them and this other avatar that's happening out there? So I think we've been used to digital personas, except we think they're real, and now that reality is also coming to our faces, where they're not real in a traditional sense, but they're also real in the present day world.
Thanks so much. That was an interesting comment you said in terms of the avatars and are they real, and you're sort of interacting. So how do you see that in terms of advertising? So a lot of these quote unquote celebrity avatars or celebrities, and then sort of going forward, are you going to see a shift from that to more sort of totally unreal avatars that seem more real? And then are you going to see Hollywood start to adopt that? I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
I mean, there's many scenarios you can imagine in terms of the world of advertising and marketing, right? But one of them could be simultaneously having a celeb be present in 100 events across the world, right? So imagine you're launching, I don't know, something new, a new car. I don't know if cars even make sense, but new something, right? A new phone. I don't know. All of these things feel weird, but they might actually not exist. But a new device, a new AI device, right? But instead of this celeb, let's say, I don't know, take some big BTS star, K-pop star, and they're out there, but they're also present in Delhi, in Beijing, in Tokyo, even though they're actually speaking from Seoul to all of you, right? That can be a very interesting process where you feel a very deep connection with a person because they are physically present, but they're not happening. And by the way, this has been done in India before. You guys know this, right? That Modi was to have holographic conversations with villagers as part of, I think it was like 12 years back or something, in terms of this thing is not new. It's just, it's going to be so refined and so polished that it'll feel really real.